Woo woo. All right. Sorry, everybody. I'm a few minutes behind today. Having a weird week, I guess. So this is Guitar 2 people. This is your weekly overview and demos. I'm gonna talk while I tune. Sorry. Hopefully everybody got out to play the fight song today. We had quite a crew on Tar Street. It was pretty fun. A little windy, but at least it wasn't raining. All right. Okay, so I am gonna just kind of go through with you some of the things that you have going on this week. And then I will obviously post this into Google Classroom as well once I'm done here. So this week you have a couple of different things going on. So hopefully you have had a chance to check into Google Classroom and look at the weekly overview that was posted in there. And if not, that should be your first step, is to jump in and check that out, because that has everything in it that you need to know for this week. So new material that we're looking at this week is we're getting a little bit more into the bass runs. So if you don't remember learning about that the first time, go back to my last video. And that's when I did a little bit of an introduction to bass runs for you right before spring break. So we're getting a little bit more involved with bass runs, looking at page 32 and 33 in the Guitar 2 book. And then we're also taking a look at the B7 chord this week, which is on page 34 of your book as well. So that is new information, okay? 60, 61, and 62 are the bass runs that I went through in the last video. And those are your warm-ups for this week. I will be posting a PDF of number 65 with notes and rhythms probably tomorrow or later today. So that is coming towards you, something to look forward to. And then Friday, you have 3 things that will be due. One is your playing test, which is your choice of 60 or 62. Those are both bass run things on page 32. And that is in Flipgrid. Your practice log, which is 30 minutes, and that's posted in Google Classroom as well. And then you will also have a quick little theory exit ticket quiz kind of situation, which is just that I'm going to give you one of the examples in your book, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about like what the notes are, where I would play them on the fretboard, rhythms, things like that. Okay, it won't be anything too difficult. All right, so to the nitty gritty here. So I talked about bass runs in my last video, which I mentioned already. And this is kind of like the natural progression from the Carter style solos that you were working on last week, or the week before spring break, sorry. So all this is doing is it's taking, I'm going to move this a little bit so you can see my guitar a little better. It's taking the chords. So like if you look at 60, I'll demo this again for you, but you're going to take it's a G chord first, and then it's moving to a C chord. So all I'm doing is taking my left hand is in the G chord position. I'm going to play my G on my low E string, my bass note. I'm going to play the rest of the chord then. And then I'm going to play my way up to C. So I'm going to play A, B, C, and then from there I would be in my C chord position. So I've got my C and then the rest of the chord, and then I'm going to play back down to G with B, A, G, and then that process could continue, okay? 61 is the same thing as 60. It just takes the chords out of the equation to make it a little bit simpler. So all I've got is G, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, right? And that would, if I wanted to throw the chords back into that, it's essentially 60. It's just instead here they're doubling the base of the chord instead of the whole chord. Okay, so instead of playing G, G chord, I'm playing G, G, A, B, C, C, right? 62, if you take a look at that, is a little bit of the same thing as 60, except for that you're moving to a D chord instead of a C chord. So you've got G chord position in my left hand. I'm playing G in the bass, the rest of the G chord, then B, then C, then open D, and the rest of my D chord. And then I'm coming back down, B, A, and then if I take the repeat, I'd be back to G. Okay, so 62 altogether is G, chord, B, C, D, chord, B, A, G, chord, and then I could continue on with the repeat. Okay. 63 on page 33 is an actual bluegrass song. Okay, it's called Going Down the Road. And as you're working on this, I would like you to look at working on the melody of this. So you've got F sharps in your key signature. Be careful. Also, I'm sight reading this. Sorry. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, F natural. Tie. So be careful. You got a couple things rest-wise. There's a tie at measure 13 to be aware of. And at measure 8, you've got an F natural, so be careful there. Now, the accompaniment style is the main focus of this week because it's the bass run situation. So I'm starting with a G chord, and it's mostly just going to be bass chord, okay? But the bass, the root of the chord is changing. So it's going to start with a G, and then the chord, and then I'm going to play a D, and the G chord again, okay? So it's a little bit different than what we've done already, okay? So I've got G, chord, D, G chord, G, chord, D, G chord, G, chord, D, G chord, G, chord. Here's the run. And I'm to my C chord now. So this is measure 5, right? I just played C, my C chord, and then I'm gonna play E chord, C chord, and then I've got another run, G, G, back to my C chord here. So this is measure 9. I've got E, C chord, C, C chord. Here's my run, bum, 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 G chord, D, G chord, G, G chord, D, G chord, G, G chord, D, G chord, D. I'm moving to a D7 chord here, okay? Sorry, I'm playing a ukulele chord that on a guitar, so that's my problem, sorry. D7 chord, back down to A, D7 chord, and G, D chord, G, and that's where it ends. So not too much of the actual running, a lot of separation between bass note or the root note and the chord, okay? And it does change. So for G, I'm playing G, and then D, and then G, and then D, but I'm always playing the G chord. For C, I'm playing C, and then E, and I'm always playing the C chord, right? D7, I'm playing D and A, okay? So just be careful there with that. All right, then looking ahead even further, page number 34, excuse me, we are going to start to talk about the B7 chord. So this is, in my opinion, the easiest of the 7 chords. I think the fingering is not too difficult. So what you're going to do is, the easiest way for me to think about it is the same as the same fingering as a D7 chord. It's just up. So I'm on the first fret. with my pointer finger on the D string, and then you're making that triangle. So the same as my D7 triangle, right? So my middle finger is going to be on my A string, 2nd fret, and then my ring finger is going to be on my G string, also 2nd fret. They're going to create the bottom 2 corners of that triangle. And then all I'm going to do is throw my pinky down on that same 2nd fret, all the way on the high E string, okay? And then I do not play the low E string, so I'm going to play from my A string down, and that's B7, okay? Now, the trick is not playing B7. The trick is going from other chords to B7 and from B7 to other chords without having to stop and think about what you're doing. So if you look at number 64, they're taking you through a pretty natural chord progression here. You've got your E major chord, which remember is the same as A minor, but everything's up a string. So 4 of those. Okay. And then from there, I'm going to move to my B7 chord. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pointer finger up a string. My middle finger is already where it needs to go. My ring finger is going to move down a string. And my pinky is already hovering over that low or that high E string. So I'm just going to stick it down there. And there's my B7 chord, 4 of those. And then I'm going to go from there to E minor. So think about your anchor finger, right? My middle finger doesn't need to move. I'm going to lift up my pointer finger. I'm going to lift up my pinky finger, and I'm going to move my ring finger up a string. There's E minor. And then I'm just going to revert right back to where I was for B7 again. So that middle finger never has to move. Okay. So I'm going to play the whole progression for 64. So I've got E to B7, to E minor, back to B7 again, right? Using my anchor fingers. My middle finger never moves. That's the finger that's keeping me where I need to be, okay? 65, We Three Kings, is in 3/4. It's also in the key of G, so you do have F sharps. Be careful, they are actually F sharps in here. Melody sounds like this. F sharp. F sharp. So this should be a familiar song to most of you. F sharp. Okay. Chord wise, I've got E minor, 1, and I would just either right now while you're figuring it out, play on just the downbeats or just play a steady beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then it switches to B7. Be ready for that. Back to E minor. Use your anchor finger. E minor. Again. I'm getting ready for my move to B7. Back to E minor with that anchor finger. Again, here's D, moving my whole hand, and G, moving my whole hand. Getting ready for the switch to A minor. B7, that's a tricky switch, be careful, and E minor. Okay, so I can put those 2 things together. You could change your strum pattern. If you wanted to, you could start to throw bass runs into that however you wanted to do it, okay? So that is everything that you guys have to go through this week. The one thing that I do want to say, besides that I keep saying a lot, sorry about that, is your playing test is 60 or 62. So you are playing one of the bass runs with chords, okay? So not the one in the middle that doesn't have any chords. Please be sure that you play as slowly as you need to play so that there isn't a break between the measures, right? I don't want to hear bum, 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 right? I want that transition to be smooth, okay? So if you need to play that slowly, you should only play the whole example as slowly as you can, as quickly as you can make that transition, okay? It is up to you whether you want to take the repeat or not. It's only 2 measures, so I would suggest that you do take it. I am only grading 2 measures. So if you take the repeat, I'm going to take whichever run through was best. Okay. All right, let me know if you have questions about anything. Again, I will post this video into Google Classroom. You can email me. I also am online right now on Google Hangouts from 1 to 3. So if you have questions about anything from this video, you can get a hold of me there. All right, thanks, guys.